Hello, and welcome back to English in Fluency. I am your host, Alex, and I am so incredibly happy that you have decided to join me today for what I believe is one of the most important, deep, and transformative sessions we have ever done. If you are listening to this right now, I want you to take a deep breath. Close your eyes for just a second, if you are safe to do so, and relax your shoulders. Let the tension leave your jaw. We are here together to change the way you think about learning English. We are going to talk about the secret engine behind your ability to speak. Have you ever felt like you have so many words floating around in your head, but when you try to speak, they just get stuck in your throat? You know the grammar rules, you have memorized the vocabulary lists, and you have studied the textbooks for years. Yet when a native speaker asks you a simple question, you freeze. Your mind goes blank. You start translating furiously in your head, scrambling to find the right verb tense, and by the time you are ready to answer, the moment has passed. The conversation has moved on, and you are left feeling frustrated and silent. If this sounds like your life, I want you to know that you are not alone. In fact, this is the most common problem for intermediate learners. But I also have good news for you. The problem is not your mouth. The problem is not your intelligence or your memory. The solution to your speaking problem is actually found in your ears. Today, we are going to dive deep into the topic of active listening and how it serves as the absolute foundation of your speaking fluency. Before we get into the heavy details, I want to ask you a favor. If you find value in what we are doing here at English in Fluency, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and share this episode with a friend who is also learning. Your support helps us keep creating these comprehensive lessons for you. Now, let's begin. Imagine for a moment that you are trying to build a beautiful tall house. You have the best wood, the best bricks, and the clearest glass for the windows. But if you try to build that house on soft, wet mud without a solid foundation, what happens? It collapses. It sinks. It falls down. In language learning, speaking is the house. It is the part everyone sees. It is the part you want to show off to the world. It is the furniture and the paint. But listening is the concrete foundation under the ground. It is the part nobody sees, but it holds everything up. If your listening skills are weak, your speaking will always be shaky. You cannot produce what you have not consumed. This is a simple rule of nature. Think about a baby. Before a baby says their first word, they spend nearly 2 years just listening. They listen to their mother, their father, the television, the radio, and the noises on the street. They are absorbing the rhythm, the melody, and the sounds of the language. They are building a massive database of sound in their brains. Only after that foundation is solid do they start to speak. As adults, we often try to skip this step. We are impatient. We want to speak immediately. We force ourselves to output before we have had enough input. And this leads to frustration. Let me tell you a story about a student of mine named Maya. Maya was a very dedicated student. She studied English for 5 years in her home country. She knew every grammar rule in the book. She could pass any written test with a perfect score. If you gave her a piece of paper and asked her to write an essay about the environment, she would write something beautiful and complex. But Maya had a dream to work for an international company. When she finally got an interview, she was terrified. The interviewer asked her a simple question about her hobbies. Maya understood the question, but when she opened her mouth, she stuttered. She used the wrong intonation. Her sentences felt robotic and unnatural. She didn't get the job. Maya came to me feeling completely defeated. She told me that she had no talent for languages. I told her that talent was not the issue. The issue was that she had treated English like a math problem to be solved, rather than a music to be heard. I gave Maya a challenge. I told her to stop studying grammar books for 1 month. Instead, I asked her to listen to English audio for 1 hour every single day. But not just listen in the background while she washed the dishes. I wanted her to do active listening. Active listening is different from passive listening. Passive listening is when you have the radio on while you are driving, but you are thinking about your grocery list or your problems at work. It helps a little bit, but it is not enough to change your fluency rapidly. Active listening is when you focus your entire attention on the audio. You are not just listening for the general meaning. You are acting like a detective. You are listening for the emotion. You are listening for the pauses. You are listening to how the speaker connects 2 words together. Maya started doing this. She listened to podcasts and interviews. At first, it was hard. She felt like she was missing a lot of words. She felt overwhelmed by the speed. But slowly, something magical started to happen. She began to hear the music of the language. She noticed that native speakers don't say, "I am going to go to the store." They say, "I'm gonna go to the store." She noticed that when people are excited, their pitch goes up, and when they are serious, their pitch goes down. After 3 months of this intense listening practice, Maya tried speaking again. She was shocked. Phrases started to come out of her mouth automatically. She didn't have to think about the grammar. She didn't have to translate. She just said what sounded right, because she had heard it 1,000 times before. This is the power of active listening. It transfers the language from your logical brain, which is slow, to your intuitive brain, which is fast. I want us to try a little experiment together right now. I want you to relax and just listen to my voice. Don't worry about every single word. Just focus on the flow. Think of English like a river. It flows up and down, fast and slow. Many students speak like a robot. They say every word with the same length and the same volume. Hello, how are you today? But that is not how English works. English is a stress-timed language. This means that some syllables are long and loud, and others are very short and quiet. When you listen actively, you start to hear this rhythm. You start to realize that we swallow small words like to, at, for, and. We crush them. We make them tiny. But we make the important words like nouns and verbs big and strong. If you don't listen for this, you will never be able to speak with flow. Your brain needs to hear the pattern thousands of times before it can copy it. Let's look at another example. Consider a man named Liam. Liam moved to the United States for his job. He was surrounded by English speakers all day long. He thought that just being in the country would make him fluent. This is a common myth. We call it learning by osmosis. People think if they stand in a room with English, the English will soak into their skin like water into a sponge. Liam lived there for 2 years, but his English didn't improve much. He was frustrated. Why was he still struggling? The reason was that Liam was not listening actively. When his co-workers spoke, he would just nod his head and smile, hoping he understood enough to get by. He was afraid to ask them to repeat themselves. He was hearing the noise of English, but he wasn't processing the structure. One day, Liam decided to change his approach. He started recording his meetings. When he went home, he would listen to the recording again. He would stop the audio after a sentence and try to repeat it exactly as his boss said it. He paid attention to the emotion. If his boss sounded angry, Liam would try to sound angry. If his boss sounded happy, Liam would try to sound happy. This technique is called shadowing. Shadowing is the bridge between listening and speaking. When you shadow, you are training your mouth muscles to move in a new way. You see, your mouth is a gym. Your tongue, your lips, and your jaw are muscles. If you have spoken your native language for 20 or 30 years, your muscles are trained for that language. English requires different movements. It requires different tongue positions. The only way to learn these positions is to listen closely to a model and then try to mimic it. Liam did this every night for 30 minutes. Within 6 months, his co-workers asked him if he had taken expensive speech lessons. They told him he sounded like a different person. He was more confident. He was clearer. And the most amazing thing was that he understood them better too. Because he had practiced making the sounds, his ears became sharper at catching the sounds. Speaking and listening are two sides of the same coin. You cannot separate them. If you improve one, you improve the other. So, how can you apply this to your life starting today? You don't need to move to an English-speaking country. You don't need expensive classes. You just need some audio and a curious mind. I want you to find a piece of audio that is just a little bit difficult for you. If it is too easy, you will get bored. If it is too hard, you will get frustrated. We call this comprehensible input. It should be something where you understand about 70 or 80% of the content. Now, step 1 is to listen to the whole thing without stopping. Just get the main idea. Step 2 is to listen again, but this time have the text or transcript in front of you. Read along while you listen. This connects the sound to the spelling. You will be surprised how many words you know by sight, but not by sound. Step 3 is the most important step. Put the text away. Listen to one sentence. Pause the audio. And say that sentence out loud. But don't just say the words. Act it out. Copy the singer's melody. If the speaker goes up at the end, you go up. If they pause, you pause. Be an actor. Fake it until you make it. I know that some of you might be feeling shy. You might feel silly talking to yourself in your room. You might feel strange making these new sounds. That is a normal feeling. It is your ego trying to protect you. Your ego wants you to stay safe and comfortable. But growth does not happen in the comfort zone. You have to be willing to sound a little bit silly today so that you can sound professional and fluent tomorrow. Think of it like learning to dance. When you first learn to dance, you look at your feet. You stumble. You feel awkward. But you keep watching the teacher, and you keep moving your body to the music. Eventually, you stop looking at your feet. You just feel the rhythm. English is a dance. Your ears hear the music, and your mouth learns the steps. Let's talk about the emotional side of listening. Have you ever noticed that you learn better when you are interested in the topic? If you force yourself to listen to boring news reports about economics, your brain will shut down. But if you listen to a story about travel, or romance, or a topic you are passionate about, you remember more. This is because emotion is the glue that makes memories stick. When you are emotionally engaged, your brain releases dopamine. This chemical tells your brain that this information is important. So, choose your materials wisely. If you love cooking, watch English cooking videos. If you love football, listen to commentary on matches. Don't study English. Study your interests in English. This shifts your focus. You stop worrying about the grammar and start focusing on the message. When you focus on the message, fluency grows naturally. It grows quietly in the background, like a plant growing in the sun. You might not see it growing every day, but one day you will look back and realize how tall you have become. I want to address a common question I get from students. They ask me, "Alex, how long will it take? How many hours do I need to listen?" This is a tricky question because everyone is different. But I will tell you this. Consistency is more important than intensity. It is better to listen for 15 minutes every day than to listen for 5 hours once a week. Your brain needs daily exposure. Think of it like watering a plant. You cannot dump a bucket of water on a plant once a month and expect it to live. It needs a little bit of water every day. So, make a routine. Maybe you listen while you drink your morning coffee. Maybe you listen while you ride the bus to work. Maybe you listen while you exercise. Turn your dead time into English time. If you have a smartphone, you have a university in your pocket. You have access to millions of conversations. Use them. Let's go back to the idea of input versus output. Many schools force students to output too early. They put students in a circle and say, "Speak." But the students don't have enough words yet. This creates anxiety. It creates fear. This fear creates a mental block. When you focus on listening first, you lower that anxiety. You are in a safe space. You are just absorbing. You are filling your cup. Imagine your brain is a cup. Listening is pouring water into the cup. Speaking is the water overflowing from the cup. You cannot overflow the cup if it is only half full. You must fill it until it spills over naturally. When you listen enough, the English will start to spill out of you. You won't be able to stop it. You will find yourself saying English words in the shower. You will find yourself dreaming in English. This is when you know you have reached a new level of fluency. Another powerful aspect of listening is understanding culture. Language is not just words, it is culture. When you listen to native speakers, you learn how they joke. You learn how they are polite. You learn how they express anger or sadness. You learn the idioms and the slang that you will never find in a textbook. For example, a textbook might teach you to say, "I am very happy." But by listening to real conversations, you might hear someone say, "I'm over the moon." Learning these small phrases makes you sound more human and less like a machine. It helps you connect with people. And ultimately, that is the goal of language. Connection. We learn English not to pass a test, but to connect with other human beings, to share stories, to do business, to make friends. Listening is the ultimate act of respect. When you listen to someone truly, you are telling them, "I value what you are saying." This builds trust. And when you are a good listener, people will want to speak to you more. They will be more patient with your mistakes because they can feel that you are trying to understand them. I want you to think about the environment you are creating for yourself. If you live in a non-English speaking country, you have to build an artificial immersion environment. You have to build a bubble of English around you. When you wake up, turn on English radio. When you cook, play an English podcast. When you watch a movie, watch it in English with English subtitles. Do not use subtitles in your native language. If you read subtitles in your native language, your brain will switch off its English listening mode. It will just read. But if you use English subtitles, you are connecting the sound to the word. Eventually, you should try to turn the subtitles off completely. This is scary, I know. You might feel like you are losing control, but it is necessary. You need to train your ears to deal with uncertainty. In the real world, people do not have subtitles floating under their chins. You have to get comfortable with not understanding every single word. If you understand the main idea, that is a victory. Celebrate that victory. Do not beat yourself up for the words you missed. Focus on the words you caught. Let's discuss the speed of native speakers. This is the #1 complaint I hear. Alex, they speak too fast. The truth is, they are not speaking too fast. They are speaking efficiently. They are linking words together. Did you eat yet? Sounds like jeet yet? This linking is what makes it sound fast. The only way to decode this speed is to listen to it repeatedly. You can use technology to help you. Most podcast players and YouTube videos allow you to slow down the speed to 0.75x. This is a great tool for beginners. Slow it down, listen to the links, and then put it back to normal speed. It is like training wheels on a bicycle. Use them for a while, but eventually you need to take them off to really ride. I also want to encourage you to listen to different accents. English is a global language. There is American English, British English, Australian English, and many, many others. There are also millions of people who speak English as a second language with their own unique accents. If you only listen to one type of accent, you will be lost when you travel. Try to diversify your listening diet. Listen to a speaker from London one day and a speaker from New York the next. Listen to someone from India or Singapore or South Africa. This makes your ears flexible. It prepares you for the real world. A fluent speaker is an adaptable speaker. A fluent listener is an adaptable listener. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about patience. In our modern world, we want everything instantly. We want fast food, fast internet, and fast results. But language learning is a slow process. It is a biological process. It is like growing a forest. You plant the seeds, you water them, and you wait. You cannot scream at a tree to grow faster. It will grow when it is ready. Be kind to yourself. If you have a bad day where you feel like you don't understand anything, that is okay. It is part of the journey. Take a break. Come back tomorrow. The only way you can fail is if you quit. If you keep listening, you will improve. It is inevitable. It is guaranteed. Think back to the story of Maya and Liam. They were just like you. They had doubts. They had fears. They had moments where they wanted to give up. But they discovered that the key was not in memorizing more lists, but in opening their ears. They stopped fighting the language and started absorbing it. They let the language come to them. And you can do the same. You have the same brain structure as they do. You have the same potential. The fact that you are listening to this long monologue right now proves that you have the attention span and the desire to learn. You are already doing the work. You are doing it right now. Remember, speaking is the flower, but listening is the root. If you water the root, the flower will bloom. If you ignore the root, the flower will die. Focus on the foundation. Focus on active listening. Be a detective of sound. Shadow the speakers you admire. Fill your cup until it overflows. You are capable of speaking beautiful, fluent, confident English. I believe in you. You just need to believe in the process. And to believe in the process fully, we need to go even deeper into that root system. We are going to dig into the dirt and find out exactly what happens in your brain when you listen, and why this specific activity is the cure for the most common disease in language learning, the translation trap. I want you to be honest with yourself for a moment. When you hear an English sentence, what does your brain do? Does it immediately try to turn those English words into your native language? For example, if I say, "The car is red," does your brain see a red car? Or does it see the words for red car in your mother tongue? If you are translating, you are building a wall between you and fluency. Translation is slow. Translation is exhausting. It takes a lot of mental energy. When you are in a conversation, you do not have time to translate. By the time you have translated the question and formulated your answer in your native language, and then translated it back to English, the other person has already started looking at their watch. They are waiting. And you feel that pressure, don't you? That heat rising in your cheeks. That panic. Let me tell you a story about a student named Sophia. Sophia was brilliant. She was an engineer. Her logical mind was incredibly sharp. She approached English like an engineering problem. She had a notebook where she wrote every new English word on the left side and the translation in her native language on the right side. She memorized thousands of pairs of words. But when she tried to speak, she was slow, painfully slow. She told me, "Alex, I have the words, but I cannot find them fast enough." The problem was that Sophia's brain was wired to look for the translation, not the meaning. She was using her native language as a crutch. She was afraid to let go of it. I told Sophia that we needed to break this habit. We needed to cut the wire between English and her native language and build a new wire directly between English and the image in her mind. How did we do this? We did it through visual listening. I asked Sophia to stop using her dictionary for a while. Instead, I gave her videos and audio stories that were very descriptive. I told her, "Sophia, when you listen, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to paint a picture in your mind. If you hear the word ocean, do not think of the word in your language. Smell the salt water. See the blue waves. Feel the sand." We started with simple stories. I would read to her, "The big brown dog ran through the green grass." She had to visualize it. At first, her brain fought back. It wanted to translate. But she kept breathing and kept visualizing. Over time, a shift occurred. She started to understand English directly. When she heard apple, she saw a red fruit, not a word on a page. This is what active listening does. It forces your brain to process meaning directly. When you listen to a lot of English without pausing to translate, your brain gets too busy to translate. It has to give up. It has to just accept the English as it is. And that is the moment fluency begins. Now let's talk about another major piece of the puzzle: learning in chunks. Most students learn English word by word. They learn I, then would, then like, then to. This is like trying to build a wall with tiny pebbles. It is unstable. Native speakers do not speak in single words. We speak in chunks. We speak in blocks of sound. I would like to is not 4 words to a native speaker. It is one sound. I'd like to. It flows together. If you learn word by word, your speaking will sound choppy. It will sound like a machine gun. Tat, 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 tat. But you want to sound like a violin, smooth and connected. Consider the story of a young man named Carlos. Carlos loved video games. He played online games with people from all over the world. He never studied grammar books. He never took a formal class. But Carlos spoke incredibly natural English. Why? Because he learned phrases, not words. When his teammates yelled, "Watch out behind you!" Carlos didn't analyze the grammar of watch and out and behind. He just understood that watch out behind you meant danger. He learned the whole block. He learned that "how's it going" is a greeting. He didn't ask why is there or where the subject is. He just accepted the chunk. When you listen actively to podcasts or interviews, I want you to hunt for these chunks. Don't collect individual words. Collect phrases. If you hear someone say, "To be honest with you," write that whole phrase down. Practice saying it as one long word. To be honest with you. To be honest with you. This will speed up your speaking immediately because your brain only has to find one block instead of 5 separate words. Let's practice this right now. I am going to say a common phrase. I want you to listen to the rhythm. The phrase is, "What are you up to?" This means, "What are you doing?" Listen to how it sounds. We don't say, "What are you up to?" We say, "What ya up to?" The what and are and you blend together to make whatcha. What you up to? Try saying that. It feels different, doesn't it? It feels relaxed. This is the secret of listening. You are not just listening for information. You are listening for the code. You are cracking the code of how native speakers actually use their mouths. This brings us to a very important emotional topic, the fear of mistakes. I know that many of you are perfectionists. You want to speak perfectly or not at all. But I am here to tell you that perfectionism is the enemy of fluency. Perfectionism is a cage. You lock yourself inside this cage because you are afraid of being judged. But let's look at how you learn to listen. When you listen to a podcast, do you understand 100% of the words? Probably not. Maybe you understand 80%. Does that stop you from understanding the story? No. You use your logic to fill in the gaps. You guess. Guessing is a skill. Intelligent guessing is what fluent people do. Imagine you are in a noisy bar or a crowded restaurant in your own country. Your friend is talking to you, but the music is loud. You don't hear every single word they say. You hear bits and pieces. But you nod, you laugh, you answer. Why? Because your brain fills in the missing information based on the context. You need to do the same thing with English. When you are listening to this channel and you hear a word you don't know, do not panic. Do not stop. Do not run to the dictionary. Just let it go. Keep listening. Usually, the next sentence will explain the meaning. Let me introduce you to another student, a woman named Elena. Elena was terrified of not understanding. If she watched a movie and missed one sentence, she would pause, rewind, listen again, check the subtitles, look up the words, and write them down. It took her 3 hours to watch a 30-minute show. She was miserable. She turned English into a chore. She was analyzing the corpse of the language instead of playing with the living creature. I gave Elena a rule, the no rewind rule. I told her, "Elena, you are going to watch this episode, and you are forbidden from touching the remote control. If you miss something, you miss it. Just keep going." She was anxious at first. She felt like she was losing control. But after a few episodes, she realized something amazing. She realized that she still understood the plot. She knew who the bad guy was. She knew who fell in love. She understood the big picture. This gave her confidence. She realized she didn't need to be perfect to be competent. Listening teaches you to be comfortable with ambiguity. It teaches you to relax into the unknown. This is a life skill, not just a language skill. When you relax, your brain works better. When you are stressed, your brain shuts down. So, when you listen, sit back, smile. Treat it like a game. If you catch a new word, great. If you miss one, it's okay. The river of language keeps flowing, and you just need to float with it. I want to talk about the concept of input hypothesis. This is a fancy term from linguistics, but the idea is simple. It means that you acquire language only when you understand messages. You don't acquire language by memorizing rules. You acquire it by understanding what someone is telling you. This is why listening to things that are interesting to you is so vital. If you are bored, you turn off. If you are interested, you tune in. I want you to think about your hobbies again. Do you like fixing cars? Do you like makeup? Do you like history? Go to YouTube and search for those topics in English. When you watch a video about how to fix an engine, and the mechanic points to a part and says wrench, you learn that word instantly. You see the object, you hear the word, and you understand the context. You didn't need a flashcard. You needed a context. Context is the king of memory. Let's go deeper into the physical aspect of listening. Have you ever noticed that after listening to English for a long time, your head hurts? You feel physically tired. This is actually a good sign. It means your brain is growing. It is like your muscles hurting after the gym. Your brain is building new neural pathways. It is working hard to decode these new sounds. So if you feel tired, don't be discouraged. Take a rest, drink some water, and be proud of yourself. You are doing the heavy lifting. There is another technique I want to share with you called micro-listening. Usually we do macro-listening, which means listening for the big idea. But sometimes it is good to zoom in. Take a tiny clip of audio, maybe just 5 seconds long. Listen to it 10, 20, 30 times. Close your eyes. Listen to the tiny sounds. Listen for the S at the end of plural words. Listen for the ed at the end of past tense verbs. Many students cannot hear these endings. They say, "Yesterday I walked to the store," because they didn't hear the T sound in walked. It is a soft sound. It is a whisper. Walked, talked, cooked. If your ear doesn't catch it, your mouth won't say it. Micro-listening trains your ear to catch these ghosts. It makes your hearing sharp like a laser. Try this exercise later today. Find a short video. Listen to one sentence. Write down exactly what you think you hear. Every word. Then, turn on the subtitles and compare. You will be shocked. You might see that you missed 3 little words. You might see that you thought the word was can, but it was actually can't. This gap between what you thought you heard and what was actually said is your learning zone. That is where the magic happens. When you see your mistake, your brain says, "Aha, so that is what that sounds like." And next time, you will hear it correctly. I also want to address the issue of accents again, but from a different angle. Sometimes students tell me, "I only want to learn the British accent because it sounds elegant," or I only want the American accent because it is popular. It is fine to have a preference for your own speaking, but for listening, you must be global. The world is full of English speakers, and most of them are not native. You will likely speak to people from Germany, Japan, Brazil, and France in English. Their accents are part of the reality of English. If you train your ears to be flexible, you become a master communicator. You become the person in the room who understands everyone. That is a superpower. Don't limit yourself. Let's return to the idea of flow. When you listen to a great speaker, notice how they use silence. Silence is part of the language too. Beginners are afraid of silence. They think they have to fill every second with sound. But native speakers pause. They pause to think. They pause to let a point sink in. They pause to breathe. When you are listening, notice these pauses. Notice that they are not awkward. They are powerful. When you start speaking, give yourself permission to pause. It makes you sound confident. It gives you time to find that chunk you are looking for. I want you to think of your English journey as a long hike up a mountain. Right now, you might be in the forest. You can't see the top. You might feel like you are walking in circles. But every hour you spend listening is a step forward. You might not see the progress today, but one day you will break through the trees and see the view. You will realize how high you have climbed. I have seen this happen with hundreds of students. I saw it with Sophia, with Carlos, with Elena. They didn't have special talents. They just didn't quit. They kept their headphones on. They kept their minds open. I want you to start treating your listening time as sacred. Protect it. Tell your family, this is my English time. Put on your headphones and enter your English world. Immerse yourself. The more you immerse, the faster you will emerge as a fluent speaker. It is a process of absorption. You are a sponge. Let the water in. Your job is simple. Listen. Listen with your heart. Listen with your eyes closed. Listen with curiosity. This curiosity is what fuels your grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for long-term goals. It means you are not giving up. Most people quit when things get hard. But you are still listening. You are still showing up. That is the definition of success. Now, we are going to cross a very special bridge together. We have talked about the soil, which is listening. We have talked about the roots, which is active processing. Now we are going to talk about the stem. We are going to talk about that magical moment when the English you hear starts to become the English you think. We are going to discuss how to turn your inner voice into an English voice. Have you ever had a conversation with yourself in your head? Of course you have. We all do it all day long. We worry about the future, we make plans, we replay arguments, but usually this voice speaks your native language. This is the biggest barrier to fluency. If your inner world is in your native language, your outer world will struggle to be in English. You will always be translating. Today, I want to teach you how to switch the station of your internal radio. I want you to start narrating your life in English. This is a technique that requires no partners, no money, and no travel. It only requires your awareness. Let me introduce you to a student named Jin. Jin was a university student who was very shy. He was afraid to speak in class because he thought his classmates would laugh at his pronunciation. He came to me and asked how he could practice speaking without the fear of judgment. I told him, Jin, your first speaking partner is yourself. I gave him a simple task. I told him that every time he did a simple daily activity, like making coffee or brushing his teeth, he had to narrate it in his head in English. Not complex sentences, just simple facts. I am picking up the toothbrush. I am putting toothpaste on it. I am brushing my teeth. The water is cold. Jin felt silly at first. He told me his brain felt heavy, like he was trying to lift weights. But he kept doing it. He started narrating his walk to the bus station. The sun is shining. That car is blue. The bus is late. After 2 months of this internal narration, something incredible happened. Jin was in class, and the teacher asked a question. Before Jin could even worry about it, the answer popped into his head in English. He raised his hand and spoke. It was fluid. It was natural. Why? Because he had been practicing thinking in English for hours every day. He had bridged the gap between perception and language. You see, when you narrate your life, you are connecting the physical world directly to English words. You are skipping the translation step. You are teaching your brain that toothbrush is not a translation of a word in your language. It is simply the name of that plastic object in your hand. I want you to try this right now. Look away from the screen or the device you are using. Look at the nearest object. What is it? Don't say the word in your native language. Say it in English. It is a lamp. It is a cup. It is a window. Now, make a sentence about it. The window is open. The cup is empty. This is how you start. It seems too simple to be effective, but the simple things are often the most powerful. You are building the habit of reaching for English first. You are training your brain to choose the English path. Now, let's talk about how to use the stories you listen to as fuel for your speaking. In our last session, we talked about listening to podcasts and stories. Now, I want to teach you the retelling technique. This is the most effective way to move from passive input to active output. The rule is simple. After you listen to a short audio clip or a story, pause it. Imagine you are talking to a friend who didn't hear it. How would you explain what happened? You don't need to use the exact words from the audio. In fact, it is better if you don't. Use your own simple words. If the story was about a man buying a car, you might say out loud to yourself, "So, there was a man. He wanted a fast car. He went to the shop. The car was too expensive. He was sad." This exercise does 3 things. First, it tests your listening comprehension. If you can't summarize it, you didn't understand it. Second, it forces you to organize your thoughts in English. Third, it builds your confidence because you realize you can tell a story. Let me tell you about a student named Fatima. Fatima loved watching American medical dramas. She would watch them for hours, but she felt like she wasn't learning anything because she couldn't speak like the doctors. I told her, "Fatima, don't try to be the doctor. Be the narrator." I asked her to watch 5 minutes of the show, then pause it and tell me what happened. At first, she struggled. She tried to remember the complex medical terms. I stopped her. I said, "Keep it simple. Just tell me the action." She took a breath and said, "The doctor is worried. The patient is sick. They need to do surgery." That was perfect. It was clear. It was correct. By retelling the stories she loved, Fatima started to own the language. She stopped being a passive consumer and became an active storyteller. Let's dig even deeper into this concept of retelling, because it connects to how memory works. When you simply listen, you are using recognition memory. Recognition is easy. It is like seeing a face and saying, "I know him." But when you retell, you are using recall memory. Recall is harder. It is like trying to draw that face from memory on a blank piece of paper. Recall strengthens the neural pathways in your brain much faster than recognition. So, challenge yourself. Listen to a news story about the weather. Then, turn off the audio and give a weather report to your empty room. Tomorrow, it will be sunny. It will be hot. Wear a hat. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be produced by you. This transforms you from a student into a speaker. This brings us to a very deep psychological concept: identity. Who are you when you speak English? Many students feel like they lose their personality when they speak a second language. They feel less funny, less smart, less interesting. This is painful. It is one of the reasons people stop speaking. They miss being themselves. But I want to offer you a different perspective. What if English is a chance to build a new version of yourself? What if you can be a slightly different person in English? Maybe your English self is a bit more outgoing. Maybe your English self is more direct. I remember a student named Kenji. In his native culture, it was important to be very quiet and humble. He carried this into English, speaking in a whisper and apologizing constantly. But English is a language that often rewards confidence and directness. I encouraged Kenji to act. I told him, "Kenji, when you speak English, imagine you are an actor playing a role. You are playing the role of a confident international businessman." We practiced this. When he switched into English, he changed his posture. He sat up straighter. He spoke louder. He realized that he wasn't faking it. He was just accessing a different part of his personality. He told me later, "Alex, I feel free when I speak English. I can say things I would never say in my own language." This is the beauty of fluency. It expands your soul. It gives you a new playground. So, when you listen to English speakers, find one whose voice and personality you admire. Maybe it is a confident news anchor, or a relaxed traveler, or a funny comedian. Try on their personality. See how it feels. Mimic their energy, not just their words. Let's shift gears and talk about the messiness of real English. Textbooks are clean. In a textbook, Person A asks a question, and Person B answers it perfectly. "Hello, how are you?" "I am fine, thank you." But real life is messy. Real life is full of interruptions, false starts, slang, and background noise. If you only listen to clean English, real English will terrify you. You need to train your ears for the mess. You need to listen to unscripted conversations. Interviews are great for this. Listen to how people interrupt each other. Listen to how they use filler words like, like, you know. Many students hate these filler words. They think they are bad English, but they are actually very important. They are thinking noises. They tell the listener, "I am not finished talking yet. I am just finding the next word." Native speakers use them all the time. If you use them, you will actually sound more fluent, not less. Instead of standing in total silence while you think of a word, which makes people think you have finished speaking, say, or well, or let me see. This buys you time. It keeps the floor yours. I had a student, Maria, who would freeze completely when she forgot a word. She would just stare at me with panic in her eyes. The silence was awkward. I taught her to use thinking sounds. I taught her to say, "What's the word?" Or, "It's on the tip of my tongue." The next time she forgot a word, she said, "It's you know, the thing for the rain." And I said, "Umbrella?" And she said, Yes, umbrella. The conversation didn't stop. The connection wasn't broken. She used the messiness to her advantage. Listening to unscripted podcasts will teach you these strategies. You will hear how native speakers fix their own mistakes. You will hear them say, "I mean," or "Actually, no. What I meant was." This shows you that even native speakers are not perfect. It gives you permission to be imperfect, too. Now, I want to address a feeling that almost every intermediate learner experiences: the plateau. You know this feeling. In the beginning, you learned fast. Every day you learned 10 new words. You felt the progress. But now, at the intermediate level, you feel stuck. You listen and listen, but you don't feel like you are getting better. You understand most things, but not everything. You can speak, but you make the same mistakes over and over. This is the intermediate plateau. And I am here to tell you, it is an illusion. You are not stuck. You are just in a different stage of growth. Think of a bamboo tree. For the first 4 years, the bamboo tree does not grow above the ground. You water it, you give it sun, but you see nothing. If you didn't know better, you would think the seed is dead. But underground, a massive root system is spreading. It is preparing. Then, in the 5th year, the bamboo shoots up to 80 feet tall in just 6 weeks. Language learning is exactly like this bamboo. The beginner stage is the leaf above ground. It is easy to see. The intermediate stage is the root growth. It is invisible. You are solidifying your grammar. You are deepening your vocabulary. You are refining your accent. You cannot see it day by day, but it is happening. The only way to escape the plateau is to keep watering the bamboo. You must not stop. This is where most people quit. They say, "I'm not improving, so I will stop trying." No, this is the exact moment you must push harder. You must increase the difficulty of your listening. If you understand 90% of a podcast, it is too easy. Find something where you only understand 70%. Challenge your brain. Force those roots to dig deeper. I want to share a technique for dealing with new vocabulary without using a dictionary. We call this context clues. When you are listening and you hear a word you don't know, treat it like a blank space in a puzzle. Look at the words around it. Look at the tone of voice. Look at the situation. If a character says, "I am so exhausted, I need to sleep for a week," and you don't know exhausted, you can guess it means very tired because of the second half of the sentence. This skill of guessing is vital. In real life, you cannot pause a person and check a dictionary. You have to guess and keep moving. Trust your intuition. Your brain is a pattern-matching machine. It is smarter than you think. Let's talk about passive immersion. We have talked a lot about active listening, where you focus hard. But passive listening has a place too. This is when you have English playing in the background while you cook, clean, or exercise. You are not focusing 100%, but your brain is still hearing the rhythm. It is like background music. This helps you get used to the intonation of the language. It keeps your brain in English mode. I recommend having English audio playing as much as possible in your home. Make your house sound like an English house. Even if you are not listening to every word, you are absorbing the melody. I had a student named Luca, who was a truck driver. He spent 8 hours a day on the road. He decided to play English talk radio in his truck all day. He wasn't always paying attention. Sometimes he was thinking about traffic or his delivery. But after a year, his pronunciation was incredible. He had absorbed the rhythm of the language just by being surrounded by it. He didn't study grammar books in the truck. He just let the sound wash over him. So, combine active listening, where you study, with passive listening, where you absorb. This is a powerful combination. Let me introduce you to a concept called the filter. Every language has a set of sounds. When we are babies, our brains can hear every sound in the world. We are universal listeners. But as we grow up, our brains become efficient. They start to filter out sounds that are not in our native language. For example, if you are a Japanese speaker, your brain might filter the sounds R and L into one single category because the Japanese language does not distinguish between them. If you are a Spanish speaker, you might struggle to hear the difference between B and V. This is not because your ears are bad. It is because your brain is too good. It is filtering out unnecessary noise. To speak English fluently, you have to retrain your brain to remove this filter. You have to open the gate again. How do you do this? You do it by listening to minimal pairs. These are words that are almost the same, but have one different sound. Ship and sheep. Bat and vat. Tree and three. Listen to these pairs over and over again. Watch videos where the speaker shows their mouth shape. Focus on the vibration. Focus on the air. Over time, your brain will realize, these are two different sounds, and it will create a new category. Once you can hear the difference, you can speak the difference. Let's expand on the shadowing technique I mentioned earlier with Liam, because it is so vital that I want to give you a step-by-step masterclass on it right here. Many people try shadowing and give up because they do it wrong. They try to shadow fast audio immediately and get frustrated. Here is the correct way to do it. Step 1. Find a transcript. You must have the text. Step 2. Listen to the audio while reading the text. Mark the pauses with a pencil. Mark the words that are stressed. Mark where the voice goes up and down. You are creating a musical map of the sentence. Step 3. Read the text out loud with the audio, but at a slow speed. Use the 0.75x speed setting on YouTube or your podcast player. Whisper along with the speaker. Step 4. This is the hard part. Put the text away. Listen to the slow audio and try to speak exactly at the same time as the speaker, like a karaoke singer. Do not wait for them to finish. Speak with them. This forces your brain to process the sound instantly. Step 5. Finally, move to normal speed. If you do this for just 5 minutes a day, your accent will transform. Your brain will start to adopt the native rhythm naturally. It will feel strange at first, almost like you are mocking the speaker. But keep going. That strange feeling is just your old habits breaking. I want to share a story about a student named Tariq. Tariq was very intelligent, but he suffered from foreign language anxiety. Whenever he tried to listen to English news, his heart would race. He would panic if he missed a word. He felt like he was drowning. I told Tariq that he needed to change his relationship with the unknown. I asked him to listen to a podcast about a topic he knew nothing about, quantum physics. I told him, Tariq, your goal is not to understand. Your goal is just to listen to the sounds. Treat it like instrumental music. Do not try to catch the meaning. Just catch the rhythm. He did this for a week. He stopped fighting the audio. He relaxed. Because he wasn't trying to force understanding, his anxiety went down. And surprisingly, he started to pick up words. Atom, energy, light. He realized that when he relaxed, his brain did the work for him. Stress blocks the ears. Relaxation opens them. If you feel panicked, stop. Take 3 deep breaths. Tell yourself, "It is okay if I don't understand everything." Then, press play again. Now, let's talk about the echo method. This is a technique to help you remember what you hear. Often, we hear a sentence, and it disappears from our memory instantly. The echo method fixes this. When you are listening to a podcast, every few minutes, hit pause. Close your eyes. Can you hear the echo of the last sentence in your mind? Can you hear the speaker's voice ringing in your head? It is like when a song gets stuck in your head. Try to replay the sound mentally before you try to analyze the grammar. Listen to the mental recording. Then, say it out loud. This strengthens your phonological loop, which is the part of your work in memory that handles sound. The stronger your phonological loop, the easier it is to learn new vocabulary because you can hold the sound in your head long enough to write it down or look it up. I want to give you a specific challenge for the next few days regarding your environment. I want you to look at your phone. What language is it in? I bet it is in your native language. I want you to change it to English. Right now. Go to Settings and change the language. This will force you to learn the English words for settings, display, notifications, brightness. It might be annoying for 2 days, but soon it will be normal. Then, change your computer. Then, change your social media settings. Force your eyes to see English every time you look at a screen. This is creating a digital immersion environment. It sends a signal to your brain that English is a tool for life, not just a subject for study. Let's imagine a perfect day of immersion. I want to walk you through what I call the 24-hour English challenge. This is something you can do this weekend. Wake up on Saturday morning. Do not touch your phone yet. Instead, turn on an English radio station or a podcast while you make coffee. Let the first human voice you hear be in English. As you drink your coffee, read one article in English news. Just one. Read it out loud. Now, go for a walk or go to the gym. Listen to an audiobook. When you are in the shower, talk to yourself. Narrate your plans for the day. First, I will clean the kitchen. Then, I will go to the market. At lunch, watch a YouTube video in English about a hobby you love. In the afternoon, if you meet a friend who also speaks English, ask them, "Can we try to speak English for 10 minutes?" If not, write a journal entry in English. In the evening, watch a movie in English. No subtitles in your language. English subtitles only. Before you sleep, listen to a guided meditation in English. Imagine how much input that is in one single day. If you do this once a week, you are living 14% of your life in English. That is huge. That is how you break the plateau. As we near the end of this session, I want to remind you that learning a language is also about learning to be a good listener in general. Being a good listener makes you a better friend, a better partner, and a better employee. When you practice active listening in English, you are actually training yourself to be more present in your life. You are training yourself to focus on the person speaking rather than your own distracted thoughts. This is a gift. English is giving you the gift of attention. When you listen to a colleague from another country, you are not just decoding words. You are decoding their culture, their perspective, their humanity. You are building bridges. I want you to think about why you started this journey. What was the spark? Was it a job, a trip, a person, a dream, reconnect with that reason. Write it down on a piece of paper and stick it on your mirror. I am listening to English because I want to. When the days are hard, when the audio is too fast, when you feel like you are on the plateau, look at that paper. Remind yourself of the destination. The destination is freedom. The freedom to travel, to work, to connect, to understand. Thank you for your time, your energy, and your trust. You are doing something amazing for yourself. You are expanding your world. Do not underestimate the power of simply listening. It is the fuel for everything else. If you found value in this session, please subscribe and share this with a fellow learner. Let's build a community of active listeners. Until next time, keep your ears open, keep your mind curious, and remember, fluency is not a destination. It is a journey, and you are well on your way. See you in the next video.